I'll just wait a second okay, I think that we're live. Let me know when you guys join. Hello, welcome to It's All Clutter with Jess Marcy. If you are getting on here live, let me know that you're here. Drop a hello and hey, Paulette. Okay, so we are live. That is always good news. Except what's going on with my picture here? Okay, that's better. How are you doing today, Paulette? So if you're live, let me know you're here. Say hello. Hey, Michelle and Melissa and Karen and Teresa. Okay, everyone's piling on here now. This is great. This topic is, I'm very excited to talk about this topic. Hey, Brenda and Jen and Jody and Kim and Cheryl. So today on It's All Clutter, I've renamed my podcast again, but this is it. I'm sticking with this name. It's All Clutter. This is episode like number 21 or 22. I can't even remember. But today we are going to talk about something that has come up recently in Clutter Boss Academy, and I've really been intrigued by this idea, and I've dug a little deeper doing some research this week, and I'm very excited to share it with you. So it's how decluttering can improve your self-esteem, which is kind of fascinating. So give me some hearts if this is something that you're interested in. Hey, Patty and Jeanette and Tammy and Christina. Hey, Ari. So as I'm going along, you guys, if something resonates with you, let me know. It's always helpful for me to know like kind of what's connecting. And if you have a topic that you want to hear me talk about, definitely put it into the comments and I will add it to my ever-growing list of podcast topics. But today we're talking about clutter and self-esteem, but not just clutter and self-esteem, specifically how the act of decluttering can actually improve your self-esteem. So I think when we think about clutter, we all intuitively understand that if you have a lot of clutter, and you're feeling a lot of negative emotions about the clutter, that can make you feel bad about yourself also, right? We tend to take on an extreme burden of responsibility for our clutter. Clutter is isolating. There's a lot of mental health issues that go with clutter, such as anxiety, depression. Those type of things are closely linked to clutter. And when you live with a lot of clutter, it can make you feel overwhelmed, which can lead you to then be anxious, and that can possibly impact your self-esteem. So we know that. But how can the actual act of decluttering improve your self-esteem? Okay, sorry about that. So this is what I have kind of been thinking about and what my research has validated. Number one, right off the bat, starting to tackle your clutter is one step towards improving your self-esteem because you're taking action. And taking action is closely linked to how we feel about ourselves. If we don't take action on something, we tend to feel bad and we have a lower view, a more negative view of ourselves. So just the act of starting to declutter is one way that you can start to shift that, to move that dial more towards feeling better about yourself. You're taking action. Taking action is related to confidence and self-esteem for sure. When you're actually decluttering, you start to make decisions. So making decisions, just like taking action, is one way that you can start to boost your confidence and your self-esteem. So just making a decision instead of getting stuck in indecision, which is something that we tend to feel is negative when it comes to ourselves, right? Not being able to make a decision is related to not having confidence. So if you feel like you can't make a decision, you're not confident in your decision-making abilities, then you might feel not as great about yourself. So when you actually start decluttering, you have to start making decisions about stuff that you haven't made decisions on for a long time. That decision-making process can start to boost your self-esteem. And specifically, it starts to boost your self-esteem because not only are you making decisions, but you're taking very small risks. So when you decide to let go of something and you're not 100% sure that it is the right thing to do, but you choose to do it anyway, you are taking a risk. And risk taking and taking small, manageable risks is very closely related to improving the image that you have of yourself, your confidence in the future, and your self-esteem. So what happens after you take a small risk is that you deal with the consequences. Now, sometimes the consequence is that you made the wrong decision, but what you realize is that it was okay to make the wrong decision because the consequence is much smaller than what we think it's going to be. So we were, imagining this very bad situation where we didn't actually have the pan that we needed. And the consequence of not having it is pretty minor. So you're willing to then take another risk. And when you're willing to take another risk and you're quicker to make a decision, then your self-esteem and your confidence goes up. So just the act of deciding to declutter, making a decision, and taking a risk, that all starts to build your self-esteem. Along with taking a risk and making is really, is this idea that you're making choices. So when you're kind of stuck in the point where you're not making choices and you're stuck in indecision, this brings you down. Making choices, making decisions, taking risks can all build your self-esteem. Now, when you make these choices, another positive benefit to decluttering and making choices is getting to know you even better than you already know yourself, right? So when you decide this belongs in my life and this does not belong in my life, you're understanding yourself at a deeper level. And having that self-awareness and understanding who you are at this moment in time can really start to improve your self-esteem and make you feel more confident. It's just kind of like a natural progression. You know what you want in your life, and it's easier for you to identify that, not just with your clutter, but with everything else. So sometimes, I hear, I have one client who asks a lot about if decluttering can lead to weight loss. And the truth is that when you make better decisions about what you surround yourself with, you're going to start to make better decisions about everything else in your life also. So that might mean when you don't have a lot of clutter and you've taken some risks and you've gotten into the habit of making decisions, you might decide to drink water instead of wine or soda or something else that would be what you would consider to be not as great a decision. So you start to make little positive decisions in all other areas of your life because you're getting used to doing that by decluttering, which is all going to lead to boosting your confidence and boosting your self-esteem along the way. You're also, when you declutter, you're mastering a new skill. So you guys know, if you follow me, that I firmly believe that decluttering and organizing is something that you can learn. It's actually a skill that you can learn. So anytime that you start to learn a new skill, you develop a greater sense of confidence and self-esteem within yourself. So just the act of learning how to declutter correctly and putting that into practice and really doing what I call strengthening those decluttering muscles, that so strongly helps you gain confidence to then maybe learn more skills or to, take it wherever you want it to go. But that's another way, learning a new skill, that decluttering literally helps you to improve your self-esteem. Another way, I have a whole list here of how decluttering helps you improve your self-esteem. Another way that decluttering can help you improve your self-esteem is that you start to create positive feedback loops in your home instead of negative feedback loops. So what do I mean by this? When you're surrounded by clutter and you don't act on it, you feel bad about yourself. So this is a negative feedback loop. You see the clutter, you don't act, you feel bad, right? So this is becoming negative. You feel bad, you don't do anything, you see the clutter, You feel bad, you don't do anything, right? This is a negative feedback loop. It keeps feeding into itself. When you start to deal with your clutter and start to make decisions, you start to create a positive feedback loop. You wake up, you feel like you've accomplished something, you're motivated to accomplish more because you've done something already. You've made a step to move forward. We do talk a lot about motivation and clutter. Motivation is fickle, it likes to go on vacation, but one way that you can continue to remotivate yourself and start to increase the positive feedback loops in your home is to start to tackle your clutter one small bit at a time. You also create positive feedback loops because you're surrounding yourself with stuff that you love and stuff that is relevant to your life today. So we talked about this a few podcasts ago when we were talking about clothing. So if you hang on to clothing that doesn't fit you and that makes you feel bad about yourself, you might be hanging on to it because in the future you think you're going to fit into it again, and you might think it's motivating you, but actually it could be creating a negative feedback loop because when you see the clothing, you feel bad about yourself, you make a bad choice after that, and the cycle continues. So when you start to make a decision on the clothing and get rid of whatever doesn't fit, get rid of whatever is not relevant to your life today, you open up your closet and all of your clothing fits, and you love your clothing, and you feel great about yourself. And that's how you can actually start to spark positive change in other areas of your life. So really decluttering, making these decisions, is swapping out negative feedback loops and replacing them with positive feedback loops, increasing your confidence and helping your self-esteem, right? So it's all connected. Another way that decluttering can actually improve your self-esteem is that when you declutter, you are forced to deal with and start to heal your past. So sometimes we have clutter, oftentimes we have clutter that has something to do with our past that we have not been able to really support ourselves around. We have these wounds from the past that our clutter represents. So by starting to take a risk and deal with the easy stuff in your life and starting to make decisions and just starting to even acknowledge that your clutter is connected to something, a wound from your past, and that acknowledgement alone can start to heal that wound. So starting to move forward and just give yourself some love and some care around things that need to be healed, that can start to help you increase your confidence, right? And improve your self-esteem and just make you start to feel better about yourself. When you declutter and you get that, what we call gold in our house, floor space, when you have more floor space in your house, because you've been decluttering, then you can engage in more self-care activities. So I see this all the time. There is a direct relationship between the amount of floor space you have in your house and self-care activities. So when you have more floor space, number one, it's easier to clean. So you're surrounded by a clean home, which feels better. So that boosts your confidence. You can let people in. That makes you feel good, right? Because oftentimes when we have clutter, we don't let people in. So we're isolating. So now we can grow our community. We can let people come in. We have floor space. We can actually sit on the floor. We can meditate. We can do yoga. We can stretch. We can play with our kids. We can play with our family. We can play with our dogs. We can sit with our cats. Floor space is so underrated, so underrated in this world today, but floor space is 100% directly connected to self-care activities, and self-care is connected to how we feel about ourselves, our confidence, our self-esteem, all of that. So just by creating more floor space, because remember, floor space is not storage space. So when you clear that clutter and you have that floor space, that alone can contribute to increasing your confidence and improving your self-esteem. But of course, there's all of these other things too. So finally, the last thing that I have come up with in really thinking about this and doing a little bit of research, is when you change your environment, when you declutter, when you change how you feel in your home, and when you are surrounded by these positive feedback loops, you're able to start to change your story. You change your identity, you shift, right? So you go from being the person who always has a lot of clutter, who is never organized, who has and this is, I don't think this about you, for the record, right? Because I think you can learn all these skills. But this is what I hear all the time. My house is dirty. I'll never get on top of this. All of this really negative self-talk. When you change your environment, you're able to change your story. And when you can change your story and shift into this different identity, that is magic. That is where this all comes together, and you really can wake up feeling so confident about who you are because you've changed your story along the way. So these are all the different ways that clutter can impact and improve your self-esteem and your confidence. And if you guys are listening in, let me know, did I miss anything? Have you had an aha moment? Is there another way that clearing your clutter can impact your self-esteem? I think this is such a good conversation to have because it's something that all of my clients are struggling with on some level, right? And to really be able to articulate how decluttering is going to help you immediately improve your self-esteem and improve your confidence. I think being able to articulate that to my clients, but also if we can articulate that to ourselves, it's another motivator, right? And everyone is always looking for motivation. That's one of the number one questions I get. How can I find motivation to declutter? And you know my answer, motivation goes on vacation. You need to find other ways to get yourself to move forward because you can't always rely on motivation. It's not always there. Jen says it makes you feel capable and independent. Absolutely, Jen. 100%. Brenda says floor space is living space. Yes. Yes, I love it. Michelle, the clothing video is a couple of podcasts back on YouTube. Oh, if you're watching this later on YouTube, please like and subscribe to my channel. I'm like the worst salesperson ever. Give me thumbs up on YouTube, like and subscribe to my channel. Then you'll get notified just in case you miss a podcast one week. Positive feedback loop. Allison, yes, we need to surround ourselves with positive feedback loops for sure. It's so important. So this is, the Ari says, your self-esteem and confidence directly impacts our relationships with our children and our spouses. Yes, 100%. So when we feel bad about so I'm going to just speak personally. When I feel bad about myself, do you know that I don't show up as the best version of me as a mom to my kids, right? I feel frustrated with myself. And so what do? I am a frustrated mom, right? It's not healthy for anyone. I'm not a great spouse because it's about me, right? It's not about my husband, it's about me. And learning that and being able to find ways to support me helps me to be a better mother and a better wife, which is something that's important to me right now. So 100%, Ari, it totally impacts our relationships with the people that we live with. And Kim says, motivation. Mine happens when I see others' progress. So motivation you can get from seeing other people who are doing a great job. You can get motivation when you do a really good job or when you start a project or do something that you've been putting off. That can motivate you to do more. Amy says, most of my friends have said to me that they've noticed how I am so much more confident since going through this whole process. Amy, I noticed that you're so much more confident now than you were 12 weeks ago. And everyone that I've been working with in this capacity, I mean, all of my clients who actually work on this, yes, it does improve your self-esteem. And your confidence, it just does. There's so many ways that clutter impacts us and so many ways that are not recognized by society at large. And this is all just so It's so important to start decluttering right now for all of these reasons. So, this was kind of a short and sweet podcast, but I think a pretty important one to listen to. If this has resonated with you, then definitely give me the thumbs up. You guys, I'm on here every Tuesday at 12:15. Sometimes it's a little longer than this one, but please let me know what you want me to talk about, because I love developing these different ideas that are a little different than what you're hearing about, right? Decluttering is not going through your house room by room and throwing out stuff. It is so much more than that. And to recognize that and to really embrace the entire process and all of the clutter, the emotional clutter, the financial clutter, the social clutter, the clutter that we have inside ourselves, right? The mental clutter, to embrace it and tackle it from this fully integrated approach is absolutely the way to move forward, with a lot of love for you, because you are awesome and you deserve to show up as the confident, beautiful soul that you are, and you deserve to have a home that nourishes your life today. So thank you so much for being here and being on this very, very, very scary journey. I know it's difficult, and you guys are amazing just for showing up. I'll see you next Tuesday at 12:15.